So, when should we build superintelligence? Right now? Tomorrow? Or maybe never? This isn't some sci fi thought experiment anymore. It is, without a doubt, one of the highest stakes questions of our time. I mean, the fate of humanity is literally hanging in the balance here. And the debate, it is fierce, with people starting from two completely, and I mean completely different places.
And on one side of that debate, you get this, a warning that is about as stark and absolute as it gets. Critics like Eliezer Yudkowsky, they argue that creating a superintelligence is so fundamentally dangerous that it's just a universal death sentence. Full stop. In their view, the risk is just way, way too high to ever proceed. But what if that's the wrong way to even think about it? What if that analogy is just off? Philosopher Nick Bostrom suggests we should try reframing the whole problem. See, maybe we're not playing Russian roulette, which is, let's be honest, a completely pointless gamble. Maybe it's more like we're a patient, a patient with a fatal disease who's considering a really, really risky surgery. It's a choice between a bad outcome that's basically guaranteed and a chance at a much, much better one. Okay, so let's dig into that idea, the risky surgery analogy. This whole framework, it really forces you to reevaluate your starting point, doesn't it? The argument here is that without superintelligence, humanity is already on a dangerous path. We all face the certainty of aging, of disease, and eventually of death. That, right there, is the terminal condition we're trying to treat. So let's break it down. What are the two paths ahead of us? Well, path one is basically do nothing. We just forgo superintelligence and continue with the world as we know it, with all its familiar risks. And let's be clear, that means over 170,000 people die every single day. Then there's path two. We go for it. We develop superintelligence. Now, this path comes with a brand new, massive, and frankly terrifying risk that a misaligned AI could just, destroy us all. But it also holds the promise of solving literally everything, curing disease, ending aging, fixing our biggest problems. All right, so how on earth do you choose between those two? Well, let's try to actually calculate the odds. We're going to start with a pretty simple model, just a basic go or no-go decision. And we're going to look at this from what's called a person-affecting perspective, which is just a fancy way of asking, what does this choice actually mean for you and for me, for the people who are alive right now? First up, let's get our baseline, the status quo. Without any crazy, radical technological breakthroughs, the average person alive today, well, you've got about 40 years of life left. That's our starting point. Now compare that to the prize, the potential upside. If a friendly, benevolent superintelligence could cure aging and disease, a conservative estimate puts our new life expectancy at around 1,400 years. I mean, that's not just an increase, that is a staggering, mind-bending leap. So here's the big question, right? To get that incredible prize, to make that jump from 40 years of life to 1,400 years, what's the maximum acceptable risk of total disaster you'd be willing to take? I mean, really, think about it for a second. What's your number? 1%? 10? 50%? What feels right to you?
Believe it or not, the math to figure this out is surprisingly simple. For this whole gamble to be worth it, our expected lifespan with the AI has to be greater than our lifespan without it. That's it. So the variable X you see there, that's the probability of total doom. The equation is just saying your chance of survival times that new super long lifespan has got to be a better deal than what you have now.
And when you run the numbers, the result is pretty shocking. Based on this simple model, it actually increases your personal life expectancy to roll the dice, even if the probability of catastrophic failure, of total doom, is as high as 97.1%.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. And the only reason for that is because the upside is just so unbelievably, astronomically enormous. Okay. So that was a simple go or no-go choice. But the real question is a lot more nuanced, isn't it? It's not just if we should have the surgery, but when. I mean, we could wait, right? We could hope that AI safety research gets better and the risk goes down. But here's the thing. Waiting has a cost. A huge cost. Every single day we wait, another 170,000 people die from things that a superintelligence could potentially cure. And this table really lays out that trade-off. So down the left side, you've got the initial risk of catastrophe. How dangerous is it right now? And across the top, you've got how quickly we're getting better at making it safe. And you can see, right, if the initial risk is pretty low, say 20%, the model says launch ASAP. But look what happens if the risk is crazy high, like 95%, and our safety progress is slow. Suddenly, the best strategy is to wait more than 31 years.
Here's the same idea, just in a different format. This chart plots the exact same data. See that big green area? That's the zone where it's best to just launch immediately. But as you move up and to the right, into those areas of higher initial risk and slower safety progress, the best move changes. You start crossing these lines where the optimal strategy becomes waiting 5, 10, or even 20 years.
But of course, real life is always more complicated than a simple model. So let's try to refine this a bit. Let's add a few real-world human factors that totally change how we think about risk and reward. First one, what if we just value today more than the value tomorrow? I mean, we all do this, right? It's simple impatience. In economics, there's a term for it: temporal discounting. We'd rather have a good thing today than the exact same good thing 10 years from now. So, how does that mess with our calculation? Well, it's pretty straightforward. If we start to discount the value of those 1,400 years just because they're way off in the future, then the prize itself starts to look a little less dazzling, a little less urgent. And that naturally makes us more risk-averse right now. The result? We become more patient, more willing to wait and delay AGI deployment to get that extra bit of safety. But hang on, let's flip that on its head. What if the reward isn't just about a longer life? What if it's about a dramatically, unimaginably better one? A life free from all suffering, a life just full of creativity and joy, something beyond what we can even picture right now.
See, this factor pushes in the complete opposite direction. If you believe that a successful AGI transition leads to some kind of utopia, then the incentive to get there as fast as humanly possible becomes, well, immense. It makes us less patient. It makes us more willing to accept the risk sooner just to start living that incredible life.
So, putting this all together, what's the actual strategy we should use? Well, the paper proposes this really nuanced two-phase approach, and it's captured by this wonderfully evocative phrase that comes from sailing. Here's how it works. Phase 1 is called swift to harbor. This is the race we're in right now, the race to simply build a capable AGI, and it's driven by all that intense competition. But then, and this is the absolutely critical part, comes phase 2, slow to birth. The second we achieve AGI capability, we don't deploy it. We stop. We pause. The whole idea is that the biggest breakthroughs in safety, this so-called safety windfall, will happen when we can finally test and align the actual system, right before we let it out into the world.
And that's the final strategic recommendation, captured in that one phrase: swift to harbor, slow to birth. It's a perfect balance of speed and caution. You race to get the ship into the safety of the harbor, but then you take your sweet time docking it carefully. Which really just leaves us with one final provocative question. Can we, as a species, actually coordinate a strategy that is somehow both this incredibly urgent and this incredibly patient?